Sweet. So, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hacker Hangouts. This is the sixth episode. I'm your host, Rohit or Ropats. And for those of you who are new to this episode or new to Hacker Hangouts, the format is basically we have founders, builders, leaders who talk about their stories around Web3. They do cool build demos, projects, products. They talk about future roadmaps that they're working on, give founder insights, talk about some alpha and future opportunities, and there will be a live Q&A towards the end of this session. So all of you who have questions throughout, keep dropping them in the chat and we'll take them at towards the end in that segment. Today, I'm really excited to have on board with us Sai Kranthi. He's the founder of Protocol.Land and Jesse Pariselli. He's the project manager at Community Labs. They're going to demo for us Protocol.Land and Tokenizing Open-Source Code. So guys, why don't we take it up for both of y'all? One of y'all just kick it off, talk about, how y'all got into Web3, how y'all got into Arweave, and what was your journey like till here?
Yes, do you want to go first?
You want to start, Sai?
Okay,
Go
no
for
worries.
it.
I'll go first, no worries. Hey everyone, thanks for the intro, Rohit. For those who don't know me, my name is Sai, and I'm building Protocol.Land. It's a decentralized code collaboration platform. You can imagine GitHub, but decentralized and full ownership of your code is with you. And it's also being it's running on a special blockchain, data blockchain called Arweave, that gives you permanence, something where you upload any file to that blockchain and it probably will outlive you. So it's an exciting tech to build Protocol.Land on top of, because ownership is great. What if your code is also permanent, where you're preserving your code for future generations or legacies, where there's a lot of censorship that is happening around Web3 projects and open source projects, something that doesn't add up with these centralized platforms' terms of service, and you lose your repository, perhaps even your account may get suspended. So there were like several cases in past where many open source projects face this scenario, and we are building to solve that. And there are many other reasons around open source projects that I want to cover today, why we are building Protocol.Land. Before we get into that, I would like to share how my journey into Web3 started. I started as a Web2 developer, always had that engineering spark in me. So working in Web2 technologies in the beginning, it was great. Since I loved to code, I did not really care about the philosophy side of it. Ownership, censorship doesn't matter to me. I thought my data was worthless or something like that. But as we progressed more, we saw a bunch of popular applications like Facebook and a lot others evolve, and they became a hub to sell your data. And you notice a bunch of recommendations are being made based on your activity online. and yeah, that freaked me out. And I got into Web3 through crypto. Crypto was very attractive back in the time, and it's also the same now, but definitely seeing a lot of bear markets happening across many years. I think it discouraged a lot of people, but I think I was there at the right time, 2017, and trading interested me, started there. I was on centralized platforms and quickly learned about decentralized platforms and started to hack my way through Ethereum. That was the first one. And then I got really interested in the tech and the community and so many amazing open source developers trying to make Web3 great, filling those gaps and everything code by code. And watching them sort of inspired me. I wanted to become more than just a trader of cryptocurrencies and transition from Web2 to Web3. And that's how I started to find relevant jobs where I could offer my skills and expertise. And front end is something that I call myself. I'm good at that because I did a lot of years working on front end. But I do not discriminate technology. I am a generalist. I like code. Doesn't matter if it's on your browser, on your machine, and I encourage that with my peers as well. So slowly, I found an opportunity with one of the good Web3 company, Exodus, a wallet company, and I started as a blockchain engineer, worked with amazing teams, super talented people worldwide, and kept progressing, made a bunch of open source contributions in Bitcoin ecosystem around ordinals, if you're curious, and got introduced to Arweave interestingly through ordinals and also NFT hype around Solana, where Arweave was being suggested in the community as an alternative to IPFS. There was some downtime with one of the IPFS based service that I was relying on to deploy my Candy Machine project. And that's when I learned about Arweave, funded my wallet with R tokens. R Connect, I think, was around back in the time, but in a very early version. So I got to see all that. And I know someone from Community Labs who was my colleague in Exodus when we were working there. So I got into Arweave full time through that person, and never regretted any day so far working here with this amazing community and super talented people trying to build on top of this data blockchain. And that's the journey. How I started with Protocol.Land at Community Labs. I transitioned as a fellow there and picked up Protocol.Land, something I built from scratch. So I was the first dev and has been maintaining this project alone ever since. And the reason why we wanted to build this project and we're so passionate about it and still are in many ways, because when you start with an idea, you slowly see as you move forward, it evolves into something even greater. So you don't just build the idea you just had, it slowly evolves over time. And we observed more challenges other than censorship around open source projects, something that is critical. For example, many open source projects also go unmaintained, and they also get deprecated because of security issues and everything. The reason behind that is maintainers and contributors slowly loses interest over time, and they get on to maybe doing their next big thing. But that doesn't mean that particular project has lost its value. Many critical infrastructures, corporates may still be using those projects. And the question was, what can be done to attract more contributors, maintainers, or even retain existing ones? Incentivizing their time to do this is the solution we stumbled upon. One potential solution, while this problem can be solved in many other ways, incentivizing is one of those solutions. And GitHub did not have that option directly. Other centralized platforms doesn't have that option directly. You would have to rely on some third-party services like Gitcoin to do that. And the friction over there was like really hard to do this correctly. Since we are doing everything decentralized on protocol land, we also wanted to fill the gap for that in a decentralized way and more in a crypto primitive way, to encourage people to not just only own their code, but also have a way to incentivize people who would like to support your projects, build a community around your code base, honestly. And how would you build a community without sharing a piece of your project with them? That's what tokenization is about, right? So you give them that sense of ownership where community is following your project, and having this tokenization layer enable them to hold a piece of something that belongs to your project, which is token in this case, and that showed strong sentiment around the project. So this is the idea that we kept on chasing, and we are still improving this. And I'm super happy to be here with you all and demo this beautiful work done by great team, not just me. There are like a lot of people involved taking this to market and doing events, programs like Jesse, and many others at Community Labs team have been helping to bring this to reality. And we are very close. The feature is live, but I still say we are very close because we are still in testnet and a lot of things are being improved in the ecosystem, and we want to also catch that pace and keep improving our solution. So that's why I say we are nearly there. So I'm gonna pause here and pass it over to Jesse, and yeah, let him introduce himself.
Sure thing. Thank you, Sai, and also thank you, Rohit, for having us on today. So my journey into Web3, I think like most people, I started hearing about Bitcoin and Ethereum and these sorts of things in like 2017. And I remember thinking like, I didn't even know what they did in 2017. I just remember people freaking out over the price. And I remember Bitcoin was around like $1,000 or something, and it had like over $100 million market cap. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. But I never really revisited it until 2020 when COVID happened, and I just had a lot of time on my hands. And I was like, I remember reading that the Federal Reserve in the US was like printing $1 trillion a day. And I remember thinking it was really interesting that governments can just control currency supply and effectively just add as much currency to the money supply as they would like to. Then I started doing more research into what Bitcoin is and how it solves this problem. I started learning more about Ethereum. And I had a friend that I grew up with actually who mentioned to me that, you know, blockchains aren't necessarily just financial tools. They can actually do other things. Like there's this project called Arweave that can basically store data on the blockchain permanently. And you can have, for instance, accurate representations of historical events on the blockchain. You can have, you can archive the internet literally. Like, I think something like 30% of web links break after 3 years. Like they're just not maintained. So, then I started getting really interested in Arweave, and I watched, I think I watched one of the A16Z crypto startup school lectures, and Sam was also talking on it. And he was talking also about how you could put full web apps on Arweave so that you required zero maintenance. If someone, for instance, a good example is like, if you're a user who's going on to an application like YouTube, let's say, and then they update, and now the entire platform is just overrun with ads. With Arweave, the previous application would actually be saved. So if you don't like the second version that is actually declining in quality, then you could just go to the first one. So now developers have this incentive where they can't just change an application in order to make it more effective at monetizing, they actually have to make the application better, which is really interesting. So then, still during COVID, I'm in my hometown in Canada, and I start doing some research on Arweave. I found Sam's email, and I emailed him, and I was like, "Please let me work for you." And then you actually replied. Sam actually replied to my email like the next day, and I moved to Berlin, and I started working with the Arweave core team. And I was actually hired as like a content writer, and then eventually just cold emailing is a really useful tool if you guys haven't done it before. But I got hired as a content writer, which, to be honest, I never thought I was particularly good at, but I just like wanted to get my foot in the door. And then I moved more to operations roles. So I started with the Open Web Foundry, which was the first kind of incubator program for projects in the Arweave ecosystem, which Tate actually had gone through, who's the founder of Community Labs. I managed a bunch of those cohorts with the Open Web Foundry. Then now found myself managing the AO Ventures cohort and working under the Community Labs umbrella, and then also working with Sai on the Protocol.Land Builder program. So it's been a long journey, almost 5 years. And the Arweave ecosystem has been super interesting, as well as I find that people in the Arweave ecosystem, they have something in common where they're all kind of like thinking for the long term, which is something that's, seems kind of obvious because it's permanent storage. But a lot of the founders that I've like spoken with and just met in the community seem to be here for actually very altruistic reasons, which is I also found super cool. So that's how I started.
Thank you, both Jesse and Sai. So, guys, I've had like the chance of working with both Jesse and Sai for a bit, and it has been super, amazing. Both of them, like Jesse, he mentioned he's worked with OWF and AO Ventures. He's worked with a ton of projects in both of these initiatives, help them upskill and level up their presentation. And Sai is an amazing developer himself and a great founder as well. So if you guys get a chance to have a chat with any of them, it's going to be super helpful. I see we have like some people from cohort 2, some from like the upcoming Hacker House, and some people who are just regulars at Hacker Hangouts. I'll create a forum so you guys can have some chats about Protocol.Land in particular and anything in general. But super excited to have you guys. If you don't mind, let's move to like the feature presentation part, which is Protocol.Land itself. If you guys can give an overview of what Protocol.Land looks like, and then let's dive into the tokenization part as well.
Sure. Thanks, Rohit. I'm going to start with, let me present my screen and let's jump into that. Okay. Do you guys see my window?
Yep.
I have this repository created.
Can you zoom in a little by any chance?
Yeah, sure. Let me check. Is there a keyboard shortcut for this? Yeah, I found it. Okay. Let me scale it this much.
Can you just do one more bump if you don't mind?
Yeah, no worries.
That's great. Thank you.
How about now? Okay. So I have this code base over here that I created just before this meeting to save us some time. So any developer would start with this, a new project that they're trying to build. And once they are done building and they decide to finally tokenize, this is the option they can find on the top right side of the screen that says tokenize. It's designed like a flip switch that you can turn on and tokenize your repository. Right now, in a brand new repositories case, if you do this, it's going to say that your token settings are incomplete. This is on clicking on that button, it takes you quickly to token settings that can be found under settings tab. This is where you design your token and do some configuration which will help you create a bonding curve based market right within your repository, so that you don't need to rely on stuff like liquidity pools for people to start trading, and you can directly invite your audience, talk about your project, let them come here and start purchasing your tokens. And you would also mention some other details like funding goal, which is very important. This is the amount that you're trying to raise using bonding curves in this project. And once you meet this goal, your liquidity raised will be transferred to Bottega, and that's an open market where everyone can trade these tokens. So it's kind of a launch of your token that gives you a jump start with liquidity, not having to bring this liquidity from your own pockets or asking people to provide liquidity by creating a pool on Dexes. I think staying this close to your code repository, this becomes a market in itself that opens up new possibilities. So let me go ahead and fill some details here. And yeah, I'm demoing this on a staging version because the production version uses QAR as base currency for you to purchase these tokens being launched by repositories. So now on production, I do not have many QARs to show you the entire flow. So I'm using a staging version that uses a mocked version of USDA in our case. And I have minted myself a lot of these tokens to mimic the process of how it's done, how you can go about using this project. If you're interested in just playing around in a safe environment with the staging link, I'll drop this in the chat. Okay. How's the liquidity handled though? Let's save this question to the very end. I would be very happy to answer all questions related to liquidity, bonding curves, trading mechanisms, and all that. Just don't want to get distracted with questions and everything at this point, and just want to show you this cool feature we built. So start off with a token name. Let's say Arweave India demo token AID. As a denomination, I'll go with 12. Token image, I have Bitcoin's logo uploaded to Arweave, and this is the transaction hash. I'm going to use that. And the curve type you begin with is exponential-like. It grows really fast, faster than linear curves or quadratic curves. So, but it's still not equivalent to actual exponential curve. The reason we chose this is to not have very sharp jump in prices that punishes late participants way too much. If you do not understand what that means, just wait for a couple of minutes and you'll see that in action. And reserve token right now is hard-coded on production. It'll be QAR, and Astro team is working on improvements around USDA. And once that is live, we are going to support QAR and USDA both on production. Right now, it's only going to be QAR on production. But in our case, we have a mocked version of USDA. So the funding goal, let's keep that to 1,500 for this demo, and I'll hit save. Okay, this max supply. How about 1 million? Okay. When you're saving this, what happens is your token settings are being saved in Protocol.Land's contract. in your repository state so that you can continue your development, and when you're ready, you can flip the tokenize switch on the top and begin the tokenization process. But it lets you manage your configuration ahead of time. So when you're ready, you can just go and flip the switch and just tokenize the repository. So at this point, what's also happening is we are launching an uninitialized version of bonding curve contract behind the scenes. So we are ready when you finally flip the switch. So little more details around what happens when you tokenize is you cannot contribute to your repository in a usual way through pull request system or making commits. When you tokenize a repository, it goes into a lockdown mode, and the only way for you to make changes to that repository is it's not possible. The way would be to fork it and then create a fork of that repository and start making those changes. And if the community is following that original repository, the parent repository, and the changes you make are like valid and meaningful and useful, then you'll start to see community shifting towards your forked version of that repository, and that's how the sentiments are going to shift. So you could expect how this happens with a fair forking model. We have built this system in the same way. Fair fork is heavily inspired from Arweave, so we wanted that concept to be at the code level. So where community is actually choosing the version that makes most sense to them rather than relying on traditional governance models like DAO, where situations like the wealthy voter will always have their way. You can avoid those scenarios in fair forking model. And it's also going to be fair launch when you tokenize and end up launching your token. So there are no pre-allocations involved where scenarios like dev rug pulls can happen. So developers are also given a choice to purchase early as soon as they launch. So they get like very low prices since this is exponential like curve. So you start off with very low prices, so you can get a good amount of supply of your own token for cheap prices and give it to your contributors or something, airdrop it to them. But there are no pre-allocations involved in this process. Everyone buys on equal terms. So once you're done saving this, and if you're done making changes to your code base, you flip the switch, you're going to be seeing this confirmation modal where it shows all the details you have put in the token settings. And if you're okay with this, just hit the tokenized repository, and this is where the interesting stuff happens. So we are pushing your token source code to the process as first step, and the next step involves initializing bonding curve with the created token process and everything. So bonding curve is not built into the token source code. It's a separate process. Bonding curve acts like a, how do I call it? Like a manager that will deal with you, general audience. Okay, let me check what went wrong. Okay. This is deployed on Arweave, and I think some things went wrong during that process. Let me give it a retry and see if this works. Otherwise, I'll take you guys to the staging link we have on Vercel, and yeah, we can move forward from there. Just give it a second. I was also trying to set up an RNS for this staging version, and I think the propagation thing did not happen. Okay, it failed again. Let's switch over
Yeah.
to the same repository that is using Vercel's service. I'm gonna hit refresh.
But
I
that's all
came
right. It's
prepared.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, you see,
Sai
I
and
came
I were
prepared.
actually
Yeah.
discussing this in the afternoon.
Right. I came prepared. So the demo is not going to be stopped because of any technical glitches whatsoever. Let's hit tokenize and give it a moment. At this point, if something went wrong in a way where we are relying on certain files that went missing during deployment, then even this entire repository, yeah, I think we got to start from scratch. Let's create a brand new repository.
So yeah, that's all right, guys. We're getting an overview of how Protocol.Land works from scratch. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can see it's replicating all your traditional workflows like GitHub, and everything's hosted on Arweave. So yeah, amazing stuff. Oh, by the way, last time we also hosted our Hacker House submissions on Protocol.Land, which was pretty cool.
Yes, there's a event hosting system built into Protocol.Land. You can see this behind this window. It says participate in hackathons, and if you click explore, you will be taken to a brand new view where you can start your own events, manage it on Arweave and AO, have some settings related to submissions and everything. I would say it's a very native solution built on Arweave that is not a platform like DevPost. Again, another centralized system. So, yeah, more tooling is available within the ecosystem for us to utilize full power of decentralization and permanence. Especially the concept of having your results permanently stored on Arweave is interesting. So any hackathon you won maybe today can be probably seen by your grandchildren later at point down the line. That concept is powerful. And I cannot say the same with centralized platforms like DevPost, where several times in the past companies shut off and then your data is gone as well. So I think we're living in a very cool era.
Yeah, certainly. Like that's a first actually, like a time capsule of your code and like hackathon accomplishments.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's quickly go ahead and make those changes. Testing this UI, I mean, I had to do this so many times. Now I ran out of valid token names. if you go to Bottega and see the liquidity pools, most pools are created by me as part of test. So they had to create a staging version of their platform and hand the contract to me. So Sai, you play with this. Don't flood our liquidity pools with your test tokens or something like that.
By the way, just curious, the token image takes the address of the data because like the pre-filled text showed like a URL rather just an address.
Right now, it only takes the TX ID of your token image, but in the next update, we are going to include file selecting option where user can just click on browse and select their token image from their local machine. So yeah, that's gonna be up next in our next update. Okay.
Sweet.
So yeah, just to make sure if we are not stuck with this settings, we are doing okay. It's just one AO node is taking a little time to respond. Just give it a second, and I think there you go. It's
Let's
all
go.
done. Let me hide this. Okay, let's try again. I think that's the beauty of being active in the ecosystem at this point of time, because we're in early stage with so much happening in the ecosystem right now. Many projects are being built. So it's great opportunity for developers to join communities here, especially Arweave India, since they host so many
I see good news.
hackathons.
Sorry,
yeah, good
I
news.
just got excited with the.
Yeah. I got distracted with the talk. Sorry. Let's get back on.
No, but I think you're right. Like people in the ecosystem right now are like architects of the ecosystem, and there's like a chance to like undo the things that we've seen in Web 2.
That is correct. So if you click on trade now, this is the window you're gonna see, and there's a box on the bottom right shows holder distribution. Whoever is holding your tokens, they're gonna show up here, and you have options to buy and sell. And this indicator, funding goal progress, it's a progress bar that shows how much USDA you have raised in our case. Let's go buy half of the supply. One important detail that I want to mention before we jump right into buying this token. If you have noticed this disclaimer here, it says 20% of the maximum supply will be reserved for bonding curve to create liquidity pool. What exactly this means is right now I have 1 million tokens as my max supply. That means I can sell only 800K of these tokens and cannot sell more than that. 200K will be reserved by the contract, and once the funding goal is reached by selling 800K tokens, the contract will mint 200K, 20% of that supply more to itself, and it will move that 20% to Bottega along with the liquidity you have raised as part of funding goal. So everyone who bought these tokens using this interface now can go and maybe sell their tokens, reap some profit, or keep holding that token. If you're interested in the project, the decision is up to you, since it gives you a chance to not just buy some random meme token or something like that, but here this process is attached to code bases. That means there is going to be certain value attached to those code bases, sentiments attached to them, how popular that is. If there is utility directly inside that project and that token is launched through this system, then more reasons for people to buy and keep holding this token. So let's go purchase. As a repo owner, do you have any tokens? No pre-allocation. You buy along with the public. So it's a fair launch in a way, yeah. I'm gonna buy half of the supply. So notice that to buy half of the supply, it's going to cost me 366 something USDA. And if I have to buy 800K, the full supply that is for sale, it's going to exactly match your funding goal. So let's do half first. I'm signing this request right now to transfer this amount to the contract and receive this token. Probably that is not captured in my screen share because, yeah, it's a window share. But you can put your faith in me that I signed the request. Okay, good news. Token spot. You see, you have made some progress with respect to funding goal. Now, if you want to buy, it also shows the holder distribution. Now you own 50% of this supply for sale. Let's say you want to buy remaining portion, which is 300K tokens. Now you know half of the supply for sale. I got it for 366 USDA. Now the rest of the tokens are going to be very expensive to buy. It's over $1,000 USDA, 1133. Let's hit the buy button. All right. Ignore the charts. It's facing some difficulties with respect to block timestamp not being available immediately after submitting an Arweave transaction. We are finding better way to improve this, but once you reach your funding goal, it stops the trading process immediately and gives the owner an option to click this one button and initiate the transition to Bottega. So let's hit that. Only owner can see that button if you're curious, as someone else like as public. You won't be seeing that button. It will just show the text message that you saw up there. This is by far the most time-taking process that we have observed because in this process, one, you're creating liquidity pool on Bottega. Two, you have to deposit a pair of tokens. One is your own token, 20%, and another one the liquidity you raised, both to that liquidity pool. So you're doing 3 interactions with Bottega smart contract. So it is definitely a little time taking to have all the confirmations in place.
Thank you. This is like a small, I don't know if it's small, but the loader really helps. I think it's a really cool GIF.
All right. So awesome. Looks like everything went well. If you now move to Bottega, you should find your token listed here with liquidity, which is really cool. You don't have to figure out how to raise this liquidity yourself. Let's search my dummy token. Okay, this is the one. I acknowledge. And what was the token ticker I used? Here, HTT. Okay, there you go. Acknowledge. So trading pairs are available, and I hold around 800K tokens, and we raised 1500 USDA for those 800K tokens. I can now easily sell, maybe let's say 500K of these tokens for this much of supply straight. Put yourself in buyers or traders' shoe, and this is how you would do it. Just to yeah, 1 second, let me sign a transaction. I'm trying to connect my wallet. Yeah. Okay. So I have 800 showing up as balance, and I can sell 500 of these tokens. What happens if I do entire 800? I think the liquidity, okay, yeah, this is great. This is great. We have 1500 TUSD in this pool, if I'm not wrong. So there's still some more USDA left for people to come and trade. For example, the entire supply was 1 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So insufficient funds. I do not have those many tokens. Swap. Signing the transaction. All right. So yeah, this is how you transition. You hit refresh now. You're gonna see. You cannot push code to this repository directly. Go to the pull request tab. Since I'm the owner of this repository, I do not have any options to add more code to this repository. The only way is to fork the repository and make changes. And it's going to be showing up in the journey tab. If more forks are being made, it's going to show a tree-like or map-like connections. And the primary tag you see over here is going to shift based on how your repo token and how actively your repository is receiving contributions. So there are certain metrics involved in giving a particular repository primary status. So yeah, this is about the tokenization feature. It was exciting
Pretty
doing
cool.
this in front of you all.
Yeah, we love live demos, and it's pretty interesting. Like this map here, we can see it's going to be a live journey of how any repo progresses on chain, which is like super cool to track like the entire history, like the time capsule we spoke of. So we'll get to like the questions, but like a quick question I have on my end is. Can you share some real use cases that you have in mind for this particular feature?
I would like to present a real life use case that is in motion right now, the Builders program. We are doing this Builders program as a proof of concept of the system, at the same time encouraging more builders in the ecosystem or outside the ecosystem and come join us, create more open source projects, or leverage Arweave and AO to maybe build an on-chain AI related projects and all that. And the prize money or the winners of this particular program are going to that transition of entire journey, like the Builders program and everything, it's going to happen straight off on Protocol-Land, from code base to also receiving prizes using Protocol-Land system. I would actually pass it over to Jesse to speak more about the program and give everyone enough details, how to participate, how to get in touch with us about this program now.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you for that demo. That was great. So we kicked off the program last Thursday on November 14th. We live streamed on X. So if you guys want to check that out, just go to the accounts of AO The Ventures or Protocol-Land. You can check out the kickoff. The program's going to run until December 12th, where we'll have a closing ceremony. We'll talk about the projects that were submitted and we'll judge the winners. The prize pool is $7,500 that's split across 3 tracks, and that money would be invested into the token of your project on Protocol-Land. And the tracks are, the first track is DeFi and financial agents, so basically just building autonomous agents that interact with some of the various platforms in the Arweave and AO ecosystem. So I just shared something in the chat there, and it goes over some ideas like basically, having an agent that maximizes yield by using a lending platform like LiquidOps, and they could swap between liquidity pools on a DEX like Bottega and try to find the best annual percentage yield. You could have like a rebalancing agent that rebalances your AO token portfolio based on market trends, and you could have like a liquidation prevention agent on LiquidOps to stop users from getting liquidated. The second track is consumer-facing applications. So obviously there's kind of been like a call to action for developers to create more consumer-facing applications just in Web3 in general. So we wanted to have a track for this where, people can create something that maybe is like a content platform that has a revenue sharing model of one of the AO Ventures projects called Copus. You can use oracles like Orbit or Tau Oracle to create personalized content like news or social media or dynamic feeds for your social app. And then you can even have like an agent that basically analyzes data from Orbit or Tau Oracle, and it can create content, like it can generate blogs or generate tweets or something like that. And then the third and final track is data-driven agents and infrastructure tooling. So potentially having something that can create predictions on the prediction market outcome.gg. Something that could potentially scan code repositories on Protocol.Land for potential bugs, and then create issues or even contributions. Another idea that we really like is an autonomous agent deployment tool. So like actually creating infrastructure to make managing agents on AO easier. So these are all things that we're super interested in, that we would love for you guys to build. And then just quickly, programming wise, all of the events will be live streamed on X every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have our first workshop on Protocol.Land, Fair Forks, and Arweave and AO this Thursday at the same time. Then we'll talk about, in the next workshop, we'll talk about tokenomics and AO token creation. And then the last one, we'll talk about building on Arweave and AO. And then we'll cap things off with the closing ceremony. Anything I missed there or any questions?
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. Like one common theme across all of these projects is there's going to be agents there. Like there's a general trend of the ecosystem, at least one of the trends where it's moving towards agents. If you can touch upon that, why it is significant. And also the other part where this tokenization feature, you have to create a fork in order to update the code. So, why is this particular thing significant as well? Does it have any significance? And if so, why?
Maybe Sai, I can answer the first part and you can answer the second part. We really wanted to focus on, so for the first track in particular is very related to agents, the DeFi one, because I think DeFi just itself lends itself to autonomous agents because there's so much that you can do where, you're getting market data constantly, which is very hard for a human being to keep track of, and then you have to actually act on that data very, very fast in order to capitalize on that information. And even traditional finance is like this in a way, like people, they have limit orders and you're able to basically automate your decision making in the market. So being able to do that in DeFi where the agent can actually act across multiple platforms at the same time, that we think is really interesting. And then the consumer-facing applications doesn't necessarily have to be an autonomous agent, but we think that this is something that is going to be, very important in the years to come. Like, some people believe that autonomous agents will actually account for more transactions on the blockchain than actual human beings, like very soon. So that's something to think about. And then the last one, just the data-driven agents and infrastructure tooling. So that's kind of like two tracks in one, where, agents that are acting on data that's not necessarily financial related. And then also we're just really interested in people creating infrastructure tooling, like things that build rails for the ecosystem that other developers can use, and that we can kind of use as Lego blocks for the ecosystem. And then maybe Sai, you could talk more about the forking model that Rohit mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good question. The reason why we wanted the design around tokenization being this specific way is to allow any developer or creator in general. I do not mean visual creators in this context, but any engineer in general, if they are creating a project and they wish to disappear for some reason, they could build the version that makes sense to them, tokenize it, and it can no longer receive any contribution, can literally disappear, and let the community, if it is attracting interest, let the community come fork it and maybe build a more meaningful version of it. Imagine Arweave in this place. I cannot go and directly make changes to Arweave. If I would like to, I would have to do something called fair fork, which is another governance system. Better in many cases in comparison to traditional governance models like using DAOs. It has a way around quick pitfalls that gets created when you use DAO model in this case. And it's, I think, it's really best to give community that power to create meaningful changes through forks and let the community decide if the new version makes more sense and switch to that new version of the code base. And another thing is to prevent any further changes in the code once it is tokenized. It gives you an immutable code base, a project that is permanently available on Arweave, and you can be very assured that the version you're using, if it is tokenized, it will no longer receive any funny changes that could put your assets or anything at risk. So that is another reliability piece that we are bringing to everyone through this model.
Yeah. So to your point, actually, it just like made me think of something, that there's a fair few teams in like the Arweave ecosystem that are quite determined to ensure that their services are maintained irrespective of whether the team or the maintainers are in place or not. And I think this feature can certainly help there. And plus, correct me if I'm wrong, but like even if someone forks and upgrades a version, you can still use the older version because it's stored on Arweave, which is also pretty cool. So you get like the choice out there.
100%. That's all about fair fork, right? Community can really decide if they want to stay with the original version of the project and the new changes someone made doesn't make sense to them, then anyone can come create a fork and can do many changes that doesn't make sense, honestly, and community can still stay with the original version. It's about how the sentiment changes around repositories and forks, and the value shifts based on that.
Yeah. So can you touch a little on the bonding curve mechanism that you've integrated? I think we've seen like a few social platforms adding this as well. So if you can just give a quick overview, because we have some builders here and they might find the knowledge useful to integrate into their own projects.
So definitely, I think this has been a very interesting research area for me while building this feature, and I learned plenty around this topic. So happy to share my perspective on this idea of bonding curves using this market. It's the magic of math, I would like to call, where being able to create a market without with literally zero liquidity in your hand is powerful. And traditionally, before using bonding curves in such systems, we were very much relying on liquidity pools, and too much effort was being made in terms of like attracting LP providers by incentivizing the process. That would mean you would have to reward them as well. That means you're losing some amount of finances around that component. And bonding curve, I think Banker project was the first one to launch bonding curve based token system. And literally, it was 40 lines of code that raised them, if I'm not wrong, around 100 to 200 million dollars back in 2017. Just 40 lines of code straight, and that was pure math. So even if you pick one line from 40 lines, it's worth over $3 million or $2 million easily. So I'm very fascinated with the way how finances are being reinvented using just math and a lot of decentralization, removing that power from centralized systems where they can manipulate numbers that you see in your bank accounts to their own benefits, lie to you that they are holding funds on behalf of you, but instead they are investing your funds elsewhere, making more revenue for themselves, and giving you a very little amount of reward as interest. Could be 6% if you're in India annually, and you see you're making money for others. And I see this decentralized way of driving finance is very powerful, and such systems can't play with your funds and everything. And the bonding, coming back to bonding curve, ever since Banker launched their solution, a lot of projects quickly followed their way of launching tokens, and many projects came out based on bonding curve. One popular project you might have heard from Solana ecosystem is Pumdor Fund, and that is around meme token launching or meme coin launching. Doesn't have real value to what you're doing. I use that platform extensively to know the pitfalls. People are just, they also have an option to stream on your token trading page. So the creator of the project or the meme token is streaming their video doing some crazy stuff, and that is attracting community, and it made insane amount of revenue, that platform, with providing no real value around what people are purchasing. It's all meme stuff. So here we wanted to do things differently, where the meaning part is the code of the project itself. Source code doesn't lie. So you read the code if you're an engineer and quickly understand what's happening. And if you're a regular user, non-engineer, and if you still want to participate, you can take the informed decision by observing the trend of repositories, different repositories, how the contributions are happening to them, how many changes it's receiving, and how many forks are going on, improvements, and the token value right now of a particular project, and involve yourself, back that project. Even that can be possible. So we attach real meaning to that system, where it's not meme token that you're launching. It can have value attached to it. And if you like, I can also speak some technical side of bonding curves if our audience are interested in that. Yeah.
I mean, I sure am. Guys, drop some emojis. Would you like to hear a bit on the technicals? Well, I say you should go for it.
Okay, so Here's the technical journey of what we built here. Beginning before, from the beginning, when I was starting this project, this particular feature set, I had several options, either to follow something what Pump.Fun did. They use pure exponential curves. What happens in the exponential curve is your graph is it shoots up. The growth is like insanely fast, exponentially fast. So the late participants are punished way too much if they miss the early trend. So what happens in that system is, for platforms like Pump.Fun, they do not mature. The tokens do not mature. They have a system where you need to raise at least 85 Solana tokens by selling that meme token, and it roughly adds up to 169K US dollars. And if as a meme token creator you end up selling those many tokens, then your project will transition to their DEX called Radium. And if you fail to do that, then you will stay stuck on Pump.Fun platform. And the kind of bonding curve they were using has this pitfall. They use exponential curve. Because of that, many late participants, they never show interest. So 90% projects do not transition to Radium. They stay stuck with half liquidity raised in Pump.Fun's platform. So nothing happens beyond that point. So I thought about it, and it did not make sense to do an exponential model in Protocol.Land, because we want projects to move to Bottega, an open market where everyone can trade. And how to allow that is by giving users control, define your own funding goals. Pump.Fun predefines these funding goals, hard codes behind the scenes. So it's approximately 85 SOL for every token you launch. And they also control the supply. They mint 1 billion tokens in total. And that might not align with your tokenomics. Let's say I want to follow a Bitcoin's tokenomics. Okay, I only want to have 21 million as max supply. I cannot do that if I'm using Pump.Fun to launch my token. But here, we're giving that option back to user. Define your token settings on your own terms and use a very stable model, which is faster than linear and quadratic, but slower than exponential model. It has a fast growth, but it doesn't punish us as aggressively as an exponential model does. It's a sweet spot that users get, even for late participants, ensuring your funding goal is met and you transition to Bottega, because that's one of the success metric of this feature set, right? If projects are not meeting funding goals, then they're stuck with a trading system in place, trying to sell those tokens and not moving any further. So if you're starting a project, if you know the idea really well, you can start off with a generous funding goal, not being way too ambitious or not undervaluing your project too much. Start with a decent amount and transition to Bottega. And once you're there, you can take it from there. Like, let the community decide and the utility you build decide the future of your token. And it'll also allow projects like Forward Research or anyone who's using that piece of software, if they want to back that software, they can show that support by purchasing their tokens and coordinating in that way, which is exactly what AO Ventures is going to do with the winners of this Builders program.
So it seems like we've kind of naturally transitioned into like the Q&A section, which is good. Just one thing I'd like to quickly highlight for everyone here. Like we saw that cool little loader which Protocol.Land's UI had, or even this modification of the bonding curve. I think it would have been relatively easier to just pick off the existing technologies and implement it as is on Arweave. But like there's a thought being put into it about like who's going to be using this platform. Developers particularly, they might not have as much liquidity to purchase at like high rates once like the normal exponential curve takes on. And the reason why I highlight this, guys, is I think like because we have a few like future founders and builders here, it's important to keep in mind who you're building for, and also just putting that care into your projects overall. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that, and it's something that we all can implement in our builds. But yeah, maybe we can just like dive into the questions here. We have Parth asking, what do people do with the project tokens? So you kind of touched a bit on there in your like last answer, but if you want to elaborate a little.
So, Parth, to answer this question, let's take an example. Let's say you're building a project that uses token for in-platform utility, a service, let's say decentralized cloud computing, and you want to provide compute, and the only way for you to pay for those services is using your own platform token, right? So imagine you build that system and tokenized your project. Now you have the token that is being used inside your project, and any users of your platform would need these tokens to participate, right? To get some services, because they need to pay to someone else on the same platform to utilize the service. And you have the market right in the code base to purchase those tokens. So what do people do with the project tokens? They could use it in your platform to pay for services, or imagine this being something like Bitcoin. You hold it, you can trade these tokens. The value can appreciate, maybe even make a little profit by selling some. So that option is given to you, and which project tokens to buy. See what really fits, what really makes sense to you. If you're looking at a code base, if that is a valuable project, maybe you can also get in touch with the builder of that project, if they are trying to attract more backers by selling the tokens. If their vision, what they're building, the progress they have made so far, if that makes sense to you, could be a metric to purchase early, right? Because it's going to be in pennies initially when you're buying these tokens. The price goes up exponentially. So yeah, that would be it. And it would be really cool to see some public-driven use cases being built around Protocol-Land, where you can build AI agent that can, the real rebalancer agent comes to my mind, where it can, shift tokens from fork to fork based on its value. So you can deposit your funds into this agent process, and it can make the decisions which repository is trending, which repository's token value is high, going up fast, purchase there, and maybe take some profit, use the funds to make an entry in another project's token. So you see, smart AI-based use cases can be built around Protocol-Land in this case. So yeah, I can leave it up to people what they do.
Yeah, I think one thing like Parth's question and your answer like touched upon, which is quite interesting from an engineering perspective, is using the project's tokens itself to pay for the services. Yeah, so just dropping that idea out there, that would be pretty cool to see. I think we already covered Boink You Dead's question, which was about what was the exact question? How is liquidity handled? Sorry, I was looking at the exact phrasing.
Yeah, we start with zero liquidity. That's the funding goal. So you want to raise liquidity through the system. And handling of that liquidity, you don't handle it yourself. Smart contract does that for you. You interact with it to query the status of your liquidity, how much funding goal you raised. that is the liquidity you're raising. And we use QAR in production for now, but very soon, in a matter of weeks, we will also have USDA going live there, and probably will be used as a default token to raise liquidity, because having a stable coin removes that volatility component, and that's, I think, most stable way to go about working with funding goals.
So, while guys, feel free to drop any questions you have. We'll just touch upon two interesting segments while you drop the questions. One is, so what does like the future of Protocol.Land hold? Like, do you have any other features planned coming up ahead, and any other opportunities or any other alpha for us here?
Yeah, I think this is still in very early phase, but exclusively for Arweave India community, I would like to maybe share some alpha here. The next phase of tokenization, this is just phase 1, so this is not a complete feature set. The next phase would be to introduce a bridge. This is not going to be Arweave to AO bridge like Quantum. This is internal Protocol.Land repository bridge. So let's say there are 5 forks of a parent repository, and you ended up purchasing parent repository's token at a very early stage, and it evolved. Many improvements were made, and forks happened, and now the latest version makes sense to you. You could easily bridge your previous fork tokens to later forks tokens using this utility that we are building as part of phase 2. So this is going to make users' life very easy in terms of how they manage their token purchases. If community doesn't come up with this rebalancing bot, I guess we are going to do that ourselves and have it available, because it's really cool to have something like that out there.
Awesome. So we actually have another question from Boinky Dell. It's actually a 3-part question, I think. Yeah. So it's like, once on Bottega, will the LP be constant? Second part is, do you think like a re-injection into the LP will be better per transaction? And then there's a clarification. So the more the tokens are being traded, part of the trading fees are added into the pool.
So the more the tokens are being traded, part of the trading fees are added into the pool. One thing, there is no tax, there is no trading fee involved whatsoever when you're buying or selling these tokens when it's still in your repository. What I mean is, if your token did not transition to Bottega, you're looking at literally 0 fees. We don't want to charge any fees from you. So there won't be any trading fees involved here. So no thoughts on adding that back to pool. And re-injection is an interesting concept, and we don't want to go down that route, because raising funds or reaching that funding goal is going to be a journey in itself for any project creator, and it also acts like an assurance for project creator that they have attracted good community and good traction for what they're building, and it would make sense to go and create a liquidity pool and deposit the raised funds with the 20% the repository is going to mint into Bottega at that point, rather than handle a re-injection scenario. But once that pool is live, I think providing more LP to that pool is still going to be rewarding in ways that is up to Bottega. You no longer are in control anymore. Once you as a developer, your particular token reaches Bottega. So it's up to community. If you still feel like you have those reserve currencies, your personal funds, and you would like to add more liquidity, you can do that on Vertigo.
Awesome. Thank you for the three-part explanation. Thank you, Dad. Hope that helps. In the meantime, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them. We'll just go otherwise to like the last segment, which we have is founders insights. So, we have some existing founders, some potential new founders, and I would like to get both of your insights because you all have very different expertise. On just being a founder, something that you all have learned picked up from your journeys that can help the journeys of the individuals in the audience. Either one of y'all can go first. Jesse?
Sure. So just a journey and some insights that might help the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I myself am not a founder, but I have spent a lot of time around founders and have helped them to modify their pitch, raise from investors, and go through the entire fundraising cycle. And some qualities that I have seen that are quite consistent between the people that I've been working with is that not only is it important for you to be very technically skilled, which is, sometimes the case for founders that what you're working on is, in some cases, technically complex, and you need to have a very good engineering understanding of what you're building. But you also have to have the ability to articulate yourself and your ideas properly in a way to investors so that they understand, because some of the investors that you're talking to are not very engineering savvy. So you really need to be able to explain things at like various levels of abstraction. And this can be difficult sometimes. So you really have to practice on how to articulate your vision and how to actually get people enthusiastic about your project. And also not just talk about like what your project is, but the actual problems that it's solving. That's one part. Another one is building in the open and making sure that you have a very tight feedback loop between you and your community. So you're building something, talking to users, building something, talking to users, like getting constant feedback and understanding what you're doing that's working and what you're doing that might not be working. What else have I noticed? Being a founder, especially in Web3, is very difficult because you have to have knowledge at the intersection of so many things. Like you have to be technical, you have to have some base level understanding about economics. Like I bet Sai didn't think that he would be researching bonding curves when he first started in this. You also have to be very good at creating incentives for networks. So one of the things I remember Sam saying about Arweave that I thought was really interesting was he said it's 90% incentives, 10% tech, which I think is accurate. The Arweave protocol itself is actually not... protocols themselves are usually typically quite simple, but it's the actual network of incentives that you create where people are actually incentivized to store data over time. But being able to do all of these things, which is very difficult, is what I think makes good founders in the ecosystem.
Those are like some really great insights. I think like the part about determining the incentives, yes, of course we're building on blockchain technology, but usually if you want to like get mainstream, that's not going to be your selling point. The incentive to move over to your product, if you're building with a competitor or like the unique solution, should be like big enough that people start using your product or project. And I think that's like missed a fair bit on like Web3 projects, but like thanks for reiterating. It's like really, really important, I would say. And something I've been like thinking about myself over the past month or so. And guys, whoever's participating in Hacker House 3 or might see themselves in like future Hacker Houses, perhaps like the Build-Ups program, y'all are going to be like demoing these projects. So do keep in mind about like articulating and also having like a good feedback loop, because like the more fleshed out your project is, the more feedback you get, the more confidence you develop in it, and it also helps like just communicating more easily. But Sai, do you want to share some insights on your end?
Yeah, I think Jesse covered most important ones, and I can only highlight my journey, since I was not way too much involved in any way, being around founders, since I was an engineer since the very start, and suddenly I made that transition from an engineer to a founder, and I had to learn so many things. Where building is just one phase of business, and there are like so many crucial components to make a business succeed, go from zero to one. And most of the times, your idea kinds of evolve. It keeps evolving as you keep building more and learn about the challenges while building that idea. And sometimes you might even learn that it's not viable to do this anymore after spending half of your energy in that project. And yeah, so my journey involves me, where I was learning a lot of non-technical things, communication, public speaking. Honestly, before getting into our Arweave ecosystem, I never did any live demos like this podcast. No, nothing. I'm an introvert by personality, and I think I'm getting out of my comfort zone by actively involving myself in all this process. So I would say it also helps you grow overall as a person when you step into the founder's position, and that growth is going to be amazing. No point in resisting that growth. Do stuff that makes you uncomfortable. That's one piece of advice, and do it with a smile on your face. So that I think is something I can say. But in general, I would say it was hard, but I like doing hard things. So that was okay for me.
Yeah, that's like really wholesome, and I think it's really important for founders to realize that they have to take on a lot more roles, even unwillingly. At many times, there's going to be like fires you have to put out, which are not in your domain of expertise. You just have to pick up those skills. But it does help eventually, and like once you're done with it, you get a little more experience, you get a little more confident about that skill, and you feel more comfortable doing it. Just like we have Sai here on our podcast. It's been really nice to have both you and Jesse doing this podcast. I think we do not have any more questions, but people are really like excited about the tokenization aspect. So I'm going to create a forum where I'll share some links that we've shared in this chat, and people can continue asking questions there. If you guys have any other resources you would like to share, feel free to. I know it's super late for you, Jesse. So thank you so much for staying around. And guys, a quick reminder: we have demo day tomorrow. So if you or your friends have not signed up yet, please do. It's going to be projects from our previous cohort presenting, so you'll get an idea of what it looks like to be in part of the Arweave India journey. And yeah, that's it on my end. Any final thoughts, Sai, Jesse?
Final thoughts. join the Protocol-Land Builder program. This is, as Sai said, we're testing the proof of concept. We are learning more about who you guys are as builders and what you guys want to build. I'd love to connect with some of you guys and learn more about what you want to do in this ecosystem. And AO Ventures is, that's the program where we really try to get large amounts of funding to projects that want to build. So there's a $300,000 investment pool from Community Labs, and then we also connect you with our network of investors. And we're alpha for you guys. We're very likely going to be launching a new cohort in Q1 of 2025. So stay tuned for that.
Sweet. Yeah, we actually had a bunch of projects from our cohort 1 that transitioned into AO Ventures after they went through the Arweave India program. So definitely keep an eye out on that. Well, I know I said final thoughts, but Sai, any chance you want to take up that one question?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the way you can go about this is use Protocol-Land contract to call one particular function that is responsible for creating a new repository in your case, but it expects some parameters from you to provide it with, and it involves a data tx ID as an option that you should provide, and that transaction ID should be for your code base, right? The zip version of your code base. In this case, our code is open source. If you go to Community Labs Discord, ping us on Community Labs Discord, or you can go to directly the GitHub org of Community Labs and search Protocol-Land, and you can look how our front end is communicating with Protocol-Land smart contract. And if you're still facing challenges trying to accomplish this, do reach out to me. I can personally help you around this problem. But once we have some more bandwidth down the line, I would like to make an SDK for Protocol-Land for projects to integrate. This is long due. I know many projects have asked this, but the bandwidth is like really short. Prioritizing a lot of things, which is another skill as a founder you should go with. So that will be coming up in future. So join our Discord to learn more about all these updates, and reach out to me, DM me, or write to us in the Discord.
All right. Thank you so much, Sai, for that question. I just want to be mindful of time as well, because we went a little over. And but once again, Sai, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on Hacker Hangouts. It's been a fun session overall. We got both technical and non-technical insights. Guys, do check out the Protocol-Land Builder program as well. I think some of y'all are planning to build some open source projects and like more infrastructure or like tools, and I think it could be a good fit to go through like the sessions they're hosting, as well as be a part of that program too alongside this. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the forum. Once again, thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you all next week with another Hacker Hangouts podcast. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.